Now I would like to invite Ms. Samara Griffin to do her 5-minute oral presentation here. So the title is on a one-stop shop for hepatitis C care in the community correction setting, the nurse and peer-led C No More study.
Great, thank you. So today I'm presenting some results from the See No More study on behalf of my co-authors listed here.
Samara, one more second. Let me introduce you. Samara is a PhD student at the Burnett Institute in Melbourne, Australia. Her research primarily focuses on hepatitis C testing and treatment in priority populations. She has a background in disease surveillance and epidemiology.
Right, sorry. So I have 2 back-to-back presentations, so I'm actually going to talk for 6 minutes. So strap in, and then Bridget is going to present after me, presenting some details on the RNA positives from this study. Okay, so the See No More model of care is targeting people on community corrections orders, so people that serve their sentence in the community rather than in prison, because we think that this population is falling in the gap between prison and between community-based hepatitis C care. So our model of care is a mobile clinically equipped van with a nurse and 2 peer workers on board. And the van is parked outside 4 selected community corrections offices across Melbourne. What we do is we approach people in the vicinity of the corrections offices, so this includes community members as well as people going in and out of their corrections appointments. We offer drop-in point-of-care fingerstick testing and fingerstick RNA and antibody testing, and we perform clinical assessment and rapid treatment initiation. Our nurse and peer support people through treatment. So our study started recruitment in September 2023, and we've had just over 1,100 people be tested. We've had 78 people test RNA positive, so our prevalence is at about 7%. Of those 78 people, we've had 72 people initiate treatment, it's around 92%. We've tested 45 people for cure, and 43 people have achieved SVR. So to break down our population a little bit more, our cohort is mostly male. Just under 40% of our cohort are current injecting drug users. A third of our population were on community corrections orders at the time of enrolment. 60% had previously been incarcerated, and 3/4 had been involved with the criminal justice system before. So either had been to prison before or had a history of community corrections orders. 14% of our population were homeless, and even more than that reported unstable housing. So overall, we had an RNA prevalence of around 7%, but this changes by subgroup. So it was 14% among people who were currently injecting drugs, 6% among people on community corrections orders, 10% among people who had a history of incarceration, 13% among people currently on opioid agonist therapy, and 10% among people with no fixed address. So overall, 64% of our population had been tested for Hep C before. This was up to 80% among those who had previously been to prison, which is unsurprising because we know that prisons are providing a lot of testing, especially in Australia. But among those with a community corrections order history but no incarceration history, this dropped to 52% and was even lower among those who had no criminal justice history. So this service, which is located adjacent to community corrections officers, can maybe try and bridge these populations and provide transitional care to people on community corrections orders and to the general community who may not be accessing this testing. Okay, so the second part of my presentation is an acceptability and accessibility evaluation that we've done for this model. So we used survey data from the beginning of the study to July 2024, and at this time we had data for 500 participants enrolled in the study. Our survey asked questions about the acceptability of the service, and we also conducted in-depth interviews with 20 participants from the study to explore their experiences with the van and other types of healthcare. We asked about point-of-care testing, the nurse and the peers, how the participants felt about the street-based outreach or using the van as a clinical setting. We tried to balance interview participants on gender, study location, criminal justice history, as well as injecting drug use history and if they'd been tested or treated for hepatitis C before, to try and get a really broad perspective. So the results of this assessment presented these in the components of the framework that we use for our analysis. So these relate both to the service and the individuals that use the service. So firstly, for approachability and ability to perceive, the informal, casual setting of our van made it a lot more approachable. Overall, interviewees didn't find themselves to be at risk for hepatitis C, or they didn't really perceive that their behaviours would have put them at risk for hep C. This was even true among people who were RNA positive. So one participant who tested RNA positive said, yeah, I thought I was fine, and then I come down here and I got tested and I couldn't believe that I had it. Similarly, 50% of participants said that the reason they hadn't been tested for hep C before was because they weren't concerned. For acceptability and ability to seek care, interviewees felt that the comfortable, easygoing environment increased the acceptability of the service, as did the involvement of peer workers. One participant said, like I say, it feels more easygoing. It feels like you're just talking to somebody that's on your level rather than someone who's looking down on you. Peer and van workers were some of people's favourite part of the service. In terms of availability to reach, it was really about location that increased the accessibility of this service. One person said, great spot, a lot of people that need help are on orders and stuff, you know, they wouldn't bother, but being here, it makes it a lot easier. Similarly, the majority of our participants were just walking past when they were approached for testing, 73%, so this really highlights that the location of our service is really important. For affordability and ability to pay, our service is totally free. We also offer incentives, so $40 supermarket vouchers or department store vouchers, and this really increased the accessibility and the acceptability of the service. This is really important for this population because the median weekly income is 450 Australian dollars, which is below the Australian poverty line. Finally, for appropriateness and ability to engage, point of care testing really increased the acceptability for people in this sense. One person said, they don't have to butcher your arms, you don't have to wait weeks for results, you can just come in, get the finger prick done, and everything will be organised from here pretty much. On top of that, what increased the ability to engage for people was the support offered by the nurse and the quick finger stick result. So our findings showed that a mobile, low-threshold, supportive nurse and peer-led model of hepatitis C care is accessible for people with criminal justice system involvement. This is a clinically effective model of care. We have really high retention rates and really high treatment initiation rates, around 92%. Given the high prevalence we found of around 7%, but also variable levels of engagement in hepatitis C care before the study, it's clear that this is a really important population and a really important setting for hep C care. Thank you to the below organisations and people who've supported us so far.
Thank you very much, Samara. Now time for one or two questions. Yes, please.
Hi, my name's Duncan. I'm from Melbourne, Australia. Thank you, Samara. Fantastic talk. You identified that more than 2/3 of the people who you recruited into the study weren't actually on community corrections orders. Do you think that you've just identified a fantastic location where you can find people who are at increased risk of hepatitis C infection? And in that case, do you think there might be other locations beyond sites of community corrections where you could also identify a similar population?
Yeah, great question, thank you. So the community corrections officers are normally they're located all throughout the city, but they're often located in community hubs. So there's a lot of other government services there, pharmacies, public transport. There's a lot of high foot traffic, but we find that we get a lot of foot traffic from courts, welfare officers, stuff like that, that are really, really relevant, that you get a really relevant population for hep C testing. So that's definitely really critical for our success. And I think the sites where we have been the most successful have had a lot of foot traffic from those sorts of services. Thanks.
Hello, Samara. That was a great presentation, thank you. I've got a question and a suggestion. Question is, with your evaluation, did you use any implementation science-based frameworks, or did you use any kind of frameworks to inform the survey that you designed?
For our acceptability evaluation?
Yeah.
No, we just used a framework for the analysis. We didn't use any kind of framework for that, no.
So that's absolutely fine, because what we can do with implementation science, so I'm spruiking here for anybody in the room who doesn't realise that. So I'm Natalie, I'm from UNSW Sydney, work a lot with Jason Grebley, And what we're trying to do with implementation science is really try and understand the patterns behind success. And it seems like here there's a lot of success. And if we can understand those patterns by using the same kind of evaluation approaches and the terminology, we can get those patterns and then we can say, right, this is what works in all of these different settings and this helps people to replicate. So it's really just a plug, and all of the data that you have collected can likely be recoded to those frameworks. So if you want another opportunity to publish in a kind of a different format, then and you know, kind of help others to replicate the learnings. And the same goes for Min, wherever she is, the magical Min, then please reach out.
Sure, thank you.
Thank you so much. Okay, looks like there is one more question for you.
Yes, amazing work, Samara, shown from Baltimore. Where did the treatment happen?
Oh, great question. Actually, our next presenter will probably go into that in a bit more detail. I won't step on her toes. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Samara.